You booked that 2026 cruise for the turquoise water and white sand, not to end up as a footnote in a State Department travel advisory. But here's the reality. The cruising landscape has shifted violently. Some of the world's most legendary ports have been slapped with level 4 "Do Not Travel" warnings, while others have become so volatile that lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean are quietly scrubbing them from itineraries overnight. The scariest part? The most dangerous port on this list is likely on your itinerary for next week. Secret number 7 shocks even the most loyal diamond-level cruisers. 1. Labadee, Haiti, the gated illusion. Labadee is marketed as Royal Caribbean's private paradise, but in 2026, that gate is the only thing standing between you and a national crisis. Most passengers think Labadee is a secluded island, but the truth is it's a peninsula attached to a nation currently under a level 4 "Do Not Travel" advisory. Imagine lounging on a beach chair with a Labadoozy in your hand, while just 3 miles away, beyond a high-security fence topped with concertina wire, the country is experiencing total civil collapse. In 2024 and 2025, we saw several instances where ships were forced to divert last minute because the perimeter was no longer tenable. Most cruisers don't realize that the local staff members have to pass through those gates every day to go home to a war zone. The consequence for you is a massive gamble with your port days. If the local political climate spikes, your ship becomes a floating target of protest, or the cruise line cancels the stop entirely. This leaves you with an unplanned sea day you didn't pay for and a buffet that is suddenly twice as crowded. You didn't pay thousands of dollars to stare at a fence from your balcony. If your 2026 itinerary includes Haiti, treat your shore excursion budget as a Plan B. Fund and stick strictly to ship-vetted activities within the fenced area. 2. Acapulco, Mexico, the fallen star. Once the playground of the Hollywood elite, Acapulco has transitioned from a glamour port to a high-risk cartel battleground. Many cruisers remember the Acapulco of the 90s, but today, the U.S. State Department lists the state of Guerrero under the same warning level as Afghanistan. While the cruise pier itself is heavily guarded by the Mexican Navy, the tourist zone is no longer the shield it once was. Travelers wandering just 2 blocks off the main drag have found themselves caught in turf disputes that don't care about your cruise card. Desperate conditions following recent hurricanes have led to a massive spike in violent crime targeting visible tourists. Stepping off the ship here in 2026 puts you at a disproportionate risk for armed robbery. The city's infrastructure is still reeling, making you a very high-value target in a very low-resource environment. If something goes wrong, local emergency services may be unable to reach you through the gridlock and unrest. Use this day as a stay on the ship day to enjoy an empty Lido deck or spa. And if you must leave, never take an independent taxi. Only use transportation prearranged by the ship. 3. Cologne, Panama, the grit behind the canal. You come for the engineering marvel of the Panama Canal, but the port of Cologne is where the dream vacation meets a gritty, dangerous reality. Ask any veteran crew member about Cologne, and they'll tell you it's south the one place they refuse to get off the ship. The area immediately surrounding the cruise terminal is notorious for snatch and grab robberies. You'll see armed guards every 50 feet, which should be your first clue that this isn't a place for a casual stroll. Most cruisers think they can DIY their day by walking into town to find a local pharmacy or shop. But the poverty here is extreme, and a flashy smartwatch or a high-end camera is a year's salary for some locals. Cruisers who venture out on foot often find themselves cornered or followed. A simple walk can turn into a traumatic incident that ends your vacation before the canal transit even begins. The local police are often overwhelmed and may not prioritize a tourist who ignored the obvious safety warnings. Do this instead. Do not leave the gated port complex unless you are on a bus headed directly to a ship-sanctioned canal excursion. 4. Roatan, Honduras, the false security of the reef. The world-class diving at Roatan masks a significant and growing trend of organized highway robberies targeting tour groups. Roatan feels safer than mainland Honduras, and that gives cruisers a dangerous sense of complacency. But here's the catch. There is only one main road that bisects the island. In 2024, there were several reports of independent tour vans being intercepted at remote choke points. Criminals know exactly when the ships are in and exactly where the tourists are headed. If you're in a lone van on a back road, you are a sitting duck. Most passengers think they are being adventurous by exploring the remote East End, but that's exactly where security is thinnest. If you're caught in a roadside robbery, you lose more than just your cash. You lose your passport and your peace of mind. Being stranded in a third-world port without documentation is a bureaucratic nightmare that will force you to leave the ship. You'll be stuck in a foreign country while your cruise ship sails away without you. Avoid renting scooters or cars and stick strictly to high-capacity tour buses provided by the cruise line, as they typically travel in informal convoys for added security. 5. Montego Bay, Jamaica, the aggressive hustle. While the beaches look like paradise, the hustle in Montego Bay is a level 3 threat to your safety and sanity. Jamaica currently sits on a reconsider travel advisory due to crime and healthcare instability. In Montego Bay, the aggression from unlicensed guides and vendors can escalate from annoying to threatening in seconds. Cruisers frequently report being followed, harassed, or even physically blocked until they buy a trinket. Most passengers think they can handle the local charm, but in 2026, that charm has a very sharp edge. The hip strip has become a hotspot for sophisticated pickpockets who wait for you to get distracted by a street performer or a vendor. Engaging with the wrong person, even just to say no thank you, can lead to a confrontation that requires port security or local police intervention. It turns a relaxing day into a high-stress legal situation. If you're injured during a dispute, the local medical facilities are currently struggling with supply shortages. Use the bubble method by only booking excursions to private beach clubs or gated resorts, and never wander the streets of Montego Bay solo. 6. Belize City, Belize, the Southside Shadow. Belize is a Tinder port, which means you are dropped directly into the heart of a city with one of the highest homicide rates in the world. To see the stunning Mayan ruins or the Great Blue Hole, you have to pass through Belize City. The tourism village at the pier is a safe, walled-off compound. But here is the danger. Cruisers often think they can walk to a nearby local restaurant and accidentally cross a bridge into the south side. The south side is a no-go zone even for locals, yet it's only a few blocks from where the tender boats dock. In 2025, several incidents involved tourists being targeted specifically because they wandered outside the safe perimeter looking for an authentic meal. Getting lost here isn't a minor detour. It's a genuine risk of violent crime. The local police presence is spread thin, and a tourist is viewed as a high-value, easy mark. If you miss your Tinder back to the ship because you were involved in an incident, you'll be left in a city that is remarkably dangerous after sunset. Never leave the gated tourism village on foot. If your excursion doesn't include transportation, stay behind the walls and do your souvenir shopping at the terminal. 7. Nassau, Bahamas, the complacency trap. The most visited cruise port in the world is currently facing a surge in violent crime that has the U.S. Embassy issuing rare, urgent security alerts. This is the reveal that shocks most people. Because we go to Nassau so often, we treat it like a suburb of Miami. But in 2026, a wave of gang-related violence in the over-the-hill neighborhoods began spilling into tourist areas. Even the popular fish fry area at Arawak Cay has seen a massive increase in security incidents. Most passengers think the walk from the ship to the straw market is perfectly safe, but the side streets have become prime territory for armed robberies during the day. Cruisers are being targeted for quick robberies at gunpoint. Because of the high volume of ships, criminals know that tourists are often carrying significant amounts of cash and high-end tech. Losing your ship ID and wallet in a port like Nassau makes getting back on board a massive headache that involves the ship's security officer and the local authorities. Front pocket your wallet, leave the expensive jewelry in your cabin safe, and only use official water taxis to get to Paradise Island. 8. Mazatlan, Mexico, the Sinaloa Surge. Mazatlan is a stunning colonial port, but its location in Sinaloa State makes it susceptible to rapid onset instability that can strand you on shore. Cruisers often forget that Mazatlan is a major hub in a state notorious for cartel activity. We've seen instances where cruise lines had to pull ships out of Mazatlan mid-season due to sudden outbreaks of violence on the mainland. While the Golden Zone is generally safe, the transit between the pier and the tourist area is a major vulnerability. Imagine being in a restaurant when the local authorities order a citywide lockdown. It's happened before, and in 2026, the political climate remains tense. You might step off the ship in a peaceful port and return to a ship that is under a fast depart order, causing you to miss your boarding time if you're exploring independently. The cruise line will not wait for you if the local security situation becomes a threat to the ship and the other 3,000 passengers on board. Follow the blue line. The city has painted a literal blue line on the sidewalk from the pier to the historic center, and as long as you stay on it, you are in a high-security corridor. 9. Cartagena, Colombia, the express kidnapping risk. The jewel of the Indies is breathtaking, but a new trend of express kidnappings is targeting cruise passengers who step into the wrong taxi. Cartagena is a dream for photographers, but the U.S. State Department warns of scopolamine attacks, where tourists are drugged and robbed, and express kidnappings. This involves a driver taking you to several ATMs to withdraw your daily limit before releasing you miles away from the port. Most cruisers think they're being savvy by grabbing a cheap taxi outside the port gates. But here's the reality. Those drivers aren't vetted. In 2025, there was a surge in reports from cruise passengers who were held for hours because they wanted to save $10 on a ride to the Old City. Losing your money is one thing, but the trauma of being held captive in a foreign country will end your love of cruising forever. These situations can turn violent quickly if the victim resists or if the kidnappers decide you have more to give. Only use the taxi Turistico booth inside the port terminal where every driver is registered and every vehicle is tracked. 10. Port of Spain, Trinidad, the terrorism red flag. Port of Spain is one of the only Caribbean destinations with a specific terrorism warning attached to its Level 3 advisory. While most ports on this list deal with petty crime, Trinidad and Tobago faces documented threats of extremist activity and sudden civil unrest. During the 2026 Carnival season, the chaos of the massive crowds makes it nearly impossible for the ship's security team to guarantee your safety. Most passengers think they can just blend into the crowd, but you are a visible target. Attacks on tourist-heavy areas are a stated concern from the U.S. State Department. The risk here is unpredictable violence. You can't outsmart a riot or a targeted attack. If something goes wrong, the port could be locked down, preventing you from returning to the pier before the ship has to leave. Treat this as a ship day for anyone traveling with kids or seniors. And if you do venture out, ensure you are back at the pier at least 3 hours before the scheduled departure. Cruising is still the safest way to see the world, but only if you replaying the game with all the cards. In 2026, winging it in these 10 ports is a recipe for disaster. If your next sailing hits any of these spots, do your homework, book ship-sponsored tours, and remember, it's okay to stay on the Lido deck. Enjoyed these insider tips? Hit that like button and subscribe to stay ahead of the cruise industry curve. What's the sketchiest port you've ever visited? Let us know in the comments. Your story might just save someone else's vacation.